Well, hey, I'm so excited to be here. My name's Ashley, and I'm the kids' pastor here. And Pastor asked me if I would speak today, and I'm just honored to be here to get to minister this morning. I will say, when you tell Pastor that you're willing to preach, it's the equivalent of asking God for more faith. Like you just don't do it because some stuff's just going to come at you. You know, I've got my spiritual shank in my back pocket because some stuff is happening, which means I have the right word for you guys. And I'm excited this morning. Like I said, my name's Ashley, and I'm so thankful that I get to do this morning. I've known Pastor Kim and Pastor OJ since I was, 9 years old, probably, and so they are my spiritual parents. I love them like my own parents. I grew up with Josh. Their son and I are the same age. We grew up in school together, and Jen and I played sports together, and then I'm sure at some point in time I've changed Tori's diaper. I'm pretty sure. So we're close. We're really close, and so I'm just so thankful to get to do this morning. A little bit about me. For those of you that don't know me, I've been in ministry for about 13 years. Started out at a mega church, and then had some life transition, and then God called me here to the Bridge, and I've been here almost 3 years in January. And it's been incredible. It's been truly, yes, it has been the best 3 years of my life. And I will say just the teaching from Pastor and the truth and the word that he gives is so real. I knew I had to be here. It wasn't because it was an opportunity to have a job. This was an opportunity to continue in my growth and my discipleship in the word. And so I'm so honored that you would have me here. This is awesome. So also, that's a little bit about me, but one of the coolest things about me is that I get to be a mom. I have 2 kids, Beckham and Evan. I don't know if there's a picture of them. They're so cute. They're so cute. So Beckham just turned 10, and he's a football player, loves the military, still has an imagination, and that's super cute. And then my daughter Evan is 5, and she is just a princess, all things princess, but she pretty much, it's her world, and we live in it. So that's how that works. How many of you guys have the Advent boxes? Have you guys been doing the Advent boxes? So on day 2 in the Advent box, one of the questions, or I think it was day 3, one of the questions in the Advent box was, if you could create Christmas Day, what would Christmas Day look like to you? If you could have anything you wanted on Christmas Day, it was just a way to get kids thinking. And so Beckham, he's 10, he's got it all figured out, and he says, just remembering Christ's birth, he's just got the perfect answer. It's just beautiful. And then Evan, she's like, oh, all the presents. I just can't wait for all the presents and just to wake up and have our cinnamon rolls, and she's just all about the things. And then it was my turn, and I said, if I could have Christmas Day anyway, I would get rid of presents. I would get rid of it, and I just went into how I just want to put the focus on the meaning of Jesus, and Evan looks at me, and she goes, well, that's rude. And I said, who is your children's pastor? So I've got some work to do with her. I've been, as I was joking about earlier, Pastor asked me to preach, a couple months ago. And at the time, I didn't have any idea what the topic was really going to be. And as I was having some difficulty in an area, I realized, this is something that you got to practice what you preach. And so this is a revelation for me as much as it is something that I know that God wants to give to you all. And so as I was driving in the car, I asked the Lord, I said, I need a title for this sermon. I need to know what it is that you want, not what I want. What do you want for your people? And the title that he gave me was Joy, the Mark of Maturity. I could walk off stage right now, I think. Joy, the Mark of Maturity. So if you have your Bibles or your YouVersion, whatever you have, let's turn to the Word. In Luke chapter 1, verse 5 through 7, it says, in the days of Herod the Great, king of Judea, there was a certain priest whose name was Zacharias of the division of Abijah. His wife was a descendant of Aaron, the first high priest of Israel, and her name was Elizabeth. They were both righteous, approved in the sight of God, walking blamelessly in all the commandments and requirements of the Lord. But they were childless because Elizabeth was barren, and they were both far advanced in age. Here's the thing about Zachariah and Elizabeth. These two were rock stars. They were rock stars. I mean, she is from the descendant of Aaron, and he's a high priest. But the thing was that they were old in age, and so they should have had children. They should have had the cream of the crop, but they didn't. They had done everything right. It says in verse 8 through 9, now it happened while Zacharias was serving as priest before God in the appointed order of his priestly division, as was the custom of the priesthood, he was chosen by lot to enter the sanctuary of the temple of the Lord and burn incense on the altar. Something I learned about this is that there were 3 lots that were cast. The first lot was the one that had to prepare the altar. The second lot, the priest had to go and actually kill the sacrifice. But the third lot was the priest that it was the coveted position. It was the one that he got to go in and bring the prayers of the people, brought the incense. It was the most coveted position. Verse 11 through 12, it says, and an angel of the Lord appeared to him, standing to the right of the altar of incense. When Zacharias saw the angel, he was troubled and overcome with fear. But the angel said to him, do not be afraid, Zechariah, because your petition in prayer was heard. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you will name him John. Now Zechariah went to the sanctuary to pray for everyone else. But here God is saying, you might be praying something with your mouth, but I know what's in your heart. I know the shame that you must feel. Right? Like he was a priest. He knew that people were talking about him, wondering what was going on. God knew what he was experiencing in his heart. He knew the cries of his heart. So if God is giving you something, then you must be lacking in something, which is why I absolutely love this next verse. It says in verse 14, you will have great joy. What does it say? You will have great joy and delight, and you will rejoice over his birth. Now, something interesting is at this time in history, it had been over 400 years since a miracle had taken place. 400 years since a miracle had taken place. And so this is the first sign of a miracle that had happened. And the thing about it is, this miracle wasn't just any miracle, because this miracle was the prophecy of John. Because without John, the prophecy wouldn't have been fulfilled about the coming of Christ. This is the first miracle. So the Christmas season, I don't know about you, but for me, it can do a couple of things. It can be a time of just incredible joy with your family, all the things, the good things that God has given you. But it can also be a time of pain. It can also shine a light on things that you don't have. But the thing is that God is a God of joy. And I'm not talking about a seasonal joy. I'm talking about the non-seasonal joy of the Lord. It's not seasonal, and guess what? It's not dependent on your feelings. It's not dependent on what you feel. It's not dependent on your situation. Joy is a person. Joy is a person. I thank God for that. So this next verse I was reading, because as I'm talking about joy, as I'm thinking about joy, I can't help but hear the verse in Nehemiah 8:10 that says, the joy of the Lord is our strength. Everyone heard that verse before? Everyone's heard that verse before. But how weird is that verse? Because the joy of the Lord is our strength. So his joy gives me strength. And that just confused me. It really did. It's something I had to work through. And God said, well, hey, look up 1 Peter 5:8, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it. It says, be well-balanced, be vigilant and cautious at all times, for the enemy of yours, the devil, roams around like a lion in fierce hunger, seeking someone to seize upon and devour. Guys, he's not looking for somebody that's empowered with joy. The battle in our lives is against our joy. Do you realize that? If he can take your joy, he can take your strength. How many of us have been crippled by things going on in our lives that we say, I have no more joy? I have no more joy. You do have joy, you just don't feel happy. You don't feel happy. And let me tell you, there's a difference between the two. So as I was praying about that, because again, remember, this is something I'm experiencing for myself, and I don't want to get the two twisted. I don't want to get it twisted that joy and happiness, they are related. But God gave me a visual, and I want to share it with you guys. So I'm a basketball player. To this day, if I could find a tournament to play in, an adult basketball tournament, I love to play. Love to play basketball. I played in school. And my favorite play in basketball, does anybody here know anything about basketball? If not, I don't know. I know this is kind of like an artsy group of people, so I'm not sure what I have to describe here. I know I had to describe it to Pastor before, but I want to describe it to you guys. In basketball, my favorite play, because I was a point guard, so I was fast, but I was also little. I loved the fast break. I love the fast break. And if you don't know what a fast break is, it's you're on one side of the court, but you're trying to get to the other side of the court. And so your teammate, whoever's got the strongest arm, usually wasn't me, had to throw the ball to the half-court line. And when you grab that ball, you turn around, and there is nobody between you and that basket. There is a rush that goes down your spine because you are focused on the goal. Did you hear me? You're focused on the goal. You're not thinking about those new basketball kicks you got on, the jersey that you're wearing, that nice house that you're going to, the vacation that you're about to go to, the lunch that you're about to have afterwards to celebrate. No, the only thing that you're focused on is the goal. So when you're focused on that goal, all those things and the cheers of the crowd and everything that supports that, man, that's happiness. But guess what? It is beautiful and in perfect design under the goal, because for the joy set before us. Okay. I'm getting too far ahead of myself. So back to Luke. Oh, no, excuse me. 1 Timothy 6:17, it says, God who richly and ceaselessly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. So those things that provide happiness to our joy, you have to understand, you don't have to go outside of God's will to experience enjoyment. You don't have to go outside of it. I knew a believer who lived a bit of a worldly life at times, a little bit of a worldly life, and this person that I knew would go out on a Saturday night, would party, do some provocative things, and then would say, hey, I'm so sorry, I can't go to church tomorrow because I don't want to be a hypocrite. Well, why weren't you feeling like a hypocrite the night before? Is that who you really are? No, who you really are, your identity is in Christ, and he gives you joy to be able to experience things that need to fulfill your deep needs. You don't need to go out looking for ways to numb yourself. He fulfills those needs. He fulfills it. All right, so back to Luke, verse 18 through 20. And Zacharias said to the angel, how will I be certain of this? For I am an old man, and my wife is advanced in age. How funny. Here he is talking to Gabriel and saying, well, how's this possible? How's this possible? The angel replied and said to him, I am Gabriel. I stand and minister in the very presence of God, and I have been sent to him to speak to you and to bring you this good news. Listen carefully. You will be continually silent and unable to speak until the day when these things take place, because you did not believe what I told you. But my words will be fulfilled at their proper time. Part of me wants to say, bless his heart. Oh, bless his heart. You know, he's been waiting for a miracle, and God knew what was in his heart, and he's been in all this silence for all this time, and now he's got to be silent again. Like, bless his heart, man. Can't you kind of break? I never want to meet Gabriel. Like, I am human. Cut me some slack. Here's the deal. If he didn't believe the angel then, he'll believe him now. What are you believing for? What are you believing for? As you focus on the goal with the ball in your hands, what are you believing for? We talked a lot today about healing. It's not just healing. What are you believing for? What has rocked your belief? What has taken and stolen your joy? Has it been that financial situation you didn't expect? Was it that relationship that didn't work out? Was it a death of someone that you really loved? What's rocked your faith? What's stolen your joy? What's kept you from believing? Here's the deal. I don't want to minimize anyone's struggle. Because a lot of us think, I wish somebody understood what I'm feeling. I wish somebody knew how much this really hurts. I wish someone knew the deep anguish and the deep pain that I'm going through. Don't you wish someone understood how much stress you're under and how much anxiety you felt? Well, no one understands this more than Jesus. And I'm not just saying that to sound cute. I mean it. It says it in his word. It says in Hebrews 12:2, who for the joy set before him endured the cross. So the end goal for him was that he was going to redeem us. He knew the end goal. It says that for the joy set before him, he was going to endure the cross, seated at the right hand of the Father, disregarding all shame. So that season was not pleasant. It rocked his happiness. He was beaten, he was bloody, he was tormented, but he knew the joy set before him was at the right seat of the Father, knowing that he was going to redeem our lives. The joy set before him. So you need to realize that you're on a fast break and get your head up and look at the goal. Because what's been there for you all along is joy. He is where the joy is. Your situation could be rocked all around you, but he is where the joy is. This last week, this came to fruition for me when I had an anxiety attack. I'm not going to stand up here and act like I don't struggle. I had an anxiety attack. Anxiety is very real. It's a very real thing. And a lot of times it presents itself in a way of, hey, this is something I can't control, and it triggers your anxiety. And there was a particular person who did something that all of a sudden I was crippled. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I was struggling. And the thing is that when I realized that it's because I had not relinquished my control to him, my eyes were not focused on the goal. I was not saying, God, help me. God, you are where the joy is. I cannot control this thing, but you can. You can. And then all of a sudden, when that realization came, it left. Because where the joy is set before me, when you keep your eyes fixed on the goal, it's when we start looking at our situation, we start looking at how hard things are, how much we don't have, how much we miss this situation, how much we wish we could do this thing or that thing. When you start looking at all your feelers, man, that's when it's going to pull you down. Because there is a counterfeit for everything. And there's a counterfeit for his joy. When we try to meet our needs in something that is not from him, it's going to hurt. There are consequences for that. So, John is finally born, and the time has come for him to be circumcised and receive his name. Elizabeth tells everyone that his name is going to be John. His name's going to be John. But he had to wait in silence. Zechariah had to wait in silence 9 months and 8 days because he didn't get his voice back the day he was born. He had no idea when he was going to get his voice back. No idea. But it wasn't until he confirmed the promise that God had given him, that God restored his voice. It says in verse 63 through 64, and he asked for a writing tablet and wrote as follows. His name is John. And they were all astonished. At once, Zechariah's mouth was opened and his tongue was freed. And he began speaking, praising, blessing, and thanking God. He had a season of silence. But when you're maturing in him and in his joy, it'll happen ever so quietly. It won't be an emotion, it'll be a knowing. Now, sometimes we're in these seasons of silence, and that's okay. These seasons of silence is a maturing in us, of knowing that for the joy set before me, I can press on, I can endure. And a good way to know how you're growing is the things that once tormented you, horrified you, destroyed you, tried to speak ill against you. When you can speak about those things in freedom, then you know that there has been maturity taking place, that God has done something in you. Zechariah didn't know when he was going to get his voice back, but it wasn't the point. John is born, and even on his birthday, he didn't get it back, but Zechariah's joy wasn't determined by his flesh or what his flesh wanted. His flesh wanted his voice back. His joy came from the promises of God. He made a shift from the things of this world and put it on God. Here is the Tifa. Let's try it for a week. When my eyes are laser focused on him, my joy will be found. Who or what has any authority to take it from me? I am free from the happiness of this world and its counterfeits. I believe I have his joy, which gives me strength.